As I told you before, everything my mother finally revealed to me that night, this whole story of the estate that had once been told to her, she passed on to me. She did it after I, terrified, confessed the frightening experience that I myself had lived through. I must begin with the first time something strange happened to me there. I was 10 years old. For years I never told my mother. It had happened one early morning. I had fallen asleep on a sofa in one of the rooms, while the family party still roared outside in the courtyard. I'd been playing with my cousins and other children, running around in games of hide and seek. My mother had warned me not to wander off, and especially never to go into the tunnels, so I obeyed. When fewer children were left and my older cousins decided they preferred to flirt with some girls, I chose to rest. I went into the main house, stretched out on a sofa near the door, but the noise outside was overwhelming. Wanting peace, I walked further inside until I reached a quiet room where the sounds of the party had nearly faded away. I remember clearly I was wearing a cap. I took it off and set it on top of an old wooden trunk. As I drifted toward sleep, I began to hear it, a woman's voice. She was humming, a melody I had never heard before. At first, I thought the sound had carried from the party, but soon I realized it was coming from behind the trunk. I was exhausted. I turned away, pressed my forehead against the sofa back, and sleep quickly pulled me under. In my dreams, the humming grew louder, closer, almost at my ear. Then another sound snapped me awake. A creak. The creak of the trunk opening. When I turned, the trunk was wide open. My cap lay on the floor. Before I could react, my mother walked in and turned on the light. "Don't go touching your uncle's things," she scolded as she closed the trunk and picked up my cap. "Come on, grab your jacket. We're leaving." The terror had been so brief that by the next morning, safe in my own bed, I had nearly forgotten it. I kept visiting the estate maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Years later, after finishing high school, my aunt, always involved in school events, suggested we hold our graduation party there, just as my cousin's classes had done. First, I didn't care. But soon I began to imagine ways I could impress Angelica, the girl I liked, with my knowledge of the place and my supposed bravery. Everyone who visited the estate for the first time always said how sinister some areas looked. I imagined endless scenes in which Angelica would be frightened, and I would be the one to comfort her. In truth, we had only spoken 2 or 3 times. She was in another class. But what can stop a teenager from dreaming up movie-like fantasies? On the night of the party, though, Angelica was one of the first to leave, along with her best friend Melissa. Some friends said a couple of guys had picked them up. My disappointment was crushing. I wandered among the trees surrounding the estate. Without knowing, I was walking the same paths where Magda years before had claimed to see the witch. It was past 11. I'd had 2 beers, just enough at that age to make me feel almost out of control. I sat against a tree, lost in thought, when suddenly I felt something tugging at the laces of my shoes. It wasn't strong, just enough to make me kick reflexively. My foot hit something, and then I saw it. A small silhouette darting away into the darkness. Small, no taller than 25 or 30 centimeters. The thought of a goblin terrified me far more than the idea of a ghost. Within seconds, I was running toward the voices of my friends. When I told them what I'd seen or thought I'd seen, some laughed, but others, carried by the excitement of the night, joined me in a spontaneous hunt for the little creature. The fear melted away. For a moment I was happy. Happy to be sharing an adventure with my closest friends, even if none of them truly believed me. After a while, spooked by the rustling of animals in the undergrowth, we gave up and returned. One by one, the group drifted back to the party until only 3 of us remained. One of my best friends, another boy from a different class whom I barely knew, and me. The estate was almost ours alone. My uncle wasn't there as usual, and even the workers were gone. The night air was perfect, cool but not cold, so we stayed outside talking. Eventually my friend fell fast asleep. The other boy and I kept chatting, sharing stories about school. He told me he too had once dated Angelica, but only for a week. She wasn't a good person, he said. I wasn't sure if he meant it or was just trying to make me feel better. I was still lost in thoughts of her when I noticed the boy staring past me, his face pale. I turned to see what had frozen him. A figure. A small humanoid shape, maybe 40 centimeters tall, standing about 20 meters away, legs spread as if ready to sprint. In the dimness, I could almost swear it was clothed. I fell back in shock, knocking over the bench. And then the figure seemed to blur into the background, gone. At that moment, my sleeping friend woke up and began screaming, pointing into the trees. Through the darkness, we saw the small silhouette again, running at animal speed. And then, from the same shadows, emerged the shape of a woman. She was running straight toward us. I have never felt such fear as in those few frozen seconds. Behind her came another figure. Only when they reached about 10 meters away, under the light of the moon, did we recognize them, two classmates, a couple, who had slipped away during the goblin hunt to be alone together. But they were pale as death. She was crying uncontrollably and he was in shock. The commotion woke Dona Estrella, one of the caretakers who stayed at the estate part of the week. She scolded us, made us go inside, and warned us sternly. "You should know better, never, never go into the woods at night." She said it while comforting the girl, who looked ready to faint. We tried to explain about the small figure we had seen. Estrella, calm as ever, told us that the woods, especially these woods, were filled with energies that attracted many things. But when the girl finally recovered enough to speak, Estrella's face changed completely. The couple hadn't seen what we saw. They had seen something far worse. While lying in the forest, half drunk, the girl had looked up. At first, she couldn't make sense of the shape above them. Then the smell hit. A thick, suffocating stench of burnt flesh. The shock sobered her instantly. And she saw it. A burned woman clinging to a tree, staring at them from just 3 meters away. She screamed, bolted upright, and ran. Her boyfriend, glancing up and seeing it too, sprinted after her in terror. They didn't know where to go, lost in the darkness, until the sound of me knocking over the bench guided them to us. The girl was in such distress we had to call an ambulance. Her boyfriend went with her, my friend's brother came to pick him up, and soon only the boy I barely knew and I were left in the empty estate, listening to Dona Estrella's stories. "That thing in the forest," she said, "is evil. The whole air turns heavy when it comes." I thought she meant some creature, a demon. I didn't yet know what my mother would later tell me about its origins. Estrella perhaps didn't know or chose not to say. About the little ones, though, she spoke lightly. "They're easy to live with. Most are just mischievous," she said, describing the goblins as if they were puppies. But her calm words didn't erase the horror of what had happened. If we hadn't caused such a commotion, I don't know if the couple would have found us, or if they might have kept running deeper into the forest. And in that moment, remembering, I thought back to my childhood, to that night with the trunk. I told Estrella about it. Her reply still chills my blood. "Yes," she said. "The woman has been seen inside the house too. Once, a guest noticed the trunk opening on its own. He swore something inside pushed it open. A horrible woman staring out from within. He was a foreigner from Europe, didn't speak much Spanish, but we understood enough. He left immediately. The patron assumed it was the woman from the woods, coming in through that trunk. They took it and threw it into the deepest ravine around here. May God grant she never finds another way inside." Even now, I remember her words with dread. I never saw the woman myself, but I can't stop thinking how close she came to me that night when I was just a child. The estate is still used today for graduation parties and other events. Perhaps some of you listening have already been there. Perhaps you've already walked close to the witch, without even knowing. That was The Witch of the Estate, Part 2. Thank you for listening.